All right, so welcome back to another episode of Taste Kitchen. My name is Paul Barron. I'm going to host today. This is kind of an interesting Taste Kitchen because I'm adding in some research on what I think you're going to love, and that is the topic of ghost kitchens, but also what you should put in your ghost kitchen as you start to integrate all kinds of equipment, technology, all those kinds of things. We'll probably have a few more of these kind of topics in series. The best thing is I'm going to share some data with you that will kind of go into where the market is heading around this, both on the virtual brand aspect, but also around some of the things that the consumer is doing that essentially is driving this trend. So don't just assume that you as a restaurant can say, hey, let's just put a ghost kitchen in and start slinging wings out the back end of our taco joint. There is some science to this madness that I think a lot of operators are doing, and they're really kind of hitting it. Some are winning and some are not. So with that being said, I want to jump to a couple of slides here that you're going to kind of get a chance to understand, but make sure and stick around towards the end of the video because I'm going to kind of break this down into two sections of the presentation today. Part of it in the front will kind of set the tone. We'll talk a little bit about some equipment, and then at the end we'll kind of talk about some of the trends that we're following along. So let's jump to this first slide, which I think is one that you have to understand if you are developing a ghost kitchen or a virtual brand. And as you start to build your restaurant and start to kind of look at some of the diversity that you have to do as an operator, these are the things that you have to consider as you build your business. Now, why does remote work even matter when you look at consumer trends? The reason is in many cases, you as an operator are building a restaurant in a location that's usually close to a work center. If you're in an urban center, you're in downtown. If you're in New York, Chicago, LA, you're going after that work crowd. That has changed. So remote work has reset the landscape in some of the consumer trends. Another thing that you're going to be looking at when you look at this slide is some of these things around virtual gatherings. And this is also kind of driving the whole aspect of takeout food. People are going into more virtual gatherings, so the Zoom calls, those kind of things, people are eating at home. So you have to win that to be able to win basically the ghost kitchen wars out there, which is how do we win lunch again? That's going to be a factor that I think a lot of restaurants are doing, and you're going to have to see a lot of marketing going in that direction. Takeout and delivery obviously is on fire, cashless and e-commerce. You're already tracking in that direction. If you're not already, you should be way on your hot list in terms of priorities is cashless, curbside, some of those elements that you're doing. Even if you're doing a ghost kitchen where you may not have pickup and maybe it's only delivery, the whole point is that you're going to need a great e-commerce solution. A couple other trends that you want to watch here as you see this slide here is health and safety. Health and safety is a big factor. I already talked about deurbanization and also the kind of this whole aspect of tech-driven solutions. Those are the kind of the framework of what is happening in the restaurant industry when it comes to consumers. Consumers obviously are driving the trends right now. They are essentially in the driver's seat. We've seen a complete shift in how restaurants are operating. Ghost kitchen, virtual brands, these are real movements that I don't necessarily see slowing down. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the products you're going to need inside a ghost kitchen. But before we do, I want to jump to this next slide, which really kind of goes into some of the transactions and also some of the habits of consumers. If you look at this data, which goes June, July, August through September, these are safety, takeout and delivery key concerns, which were safety from pickup point, preferring curbside, or wanting contactless. So all of these are way up in the list, but if you look at kind of the growth in terms of the percentage of the audience that restaurants are dealing with, you can kind of see the growth there in the green, which is preferring curbside. This is one of the big advantages. And then also wanting contactless payments. This is another rising category. Now, why this matters with your ghost kitchen, if you're building a ghost kitchen, and let's say, for instance, you're a taco shop and you decide to go in and develop a ghost kitchen for Uber Eats or one of the third-party deliveries for a burger concept. The idea would be is you could actually do a curbside component, brand it as Bob's Burgers or whatever your burger concept is, and actually deliver almost a brand element for an in-person pickup rather than them walking into, if you're in a strip center and you've got a taco shop there. So there's some benefits to this if this can apply to your particular real estate situation in being able to put together something in your parking lot, if you've got that ability with your landlords to kind of ramp up the service model to the customer, so you don't always have to pay that anywhere between 15 to 25% in fees for third-party delivery. So that's a big factor. All right, so the other slide I want to break down here is the average restaurant transactions. So this is analysis of 87,000 restaurants, average daily transactions, which were at about 120 per unit. And this is pretty common. I think everybody's already experiencing this, but I want you to see the consistency of what's happening here between takeout and dine-in. So dine-in being the green chart, you see that back in January, obviously pre-crisis. It falls literally off the chart, and it moves into about 38%. Or 38 transactions in May, which was kind of when it came back up. But it's holding, and now here in October and November, we're starting to see that number continue or also start to decline again. Now, part of that could be this so-called second surge that we saw, that potentially, but the key there with the blue line is that the integration of transactions for takeout, to go, curbside, all that is not only stabilizing, but it's rising. So, I mean, we're seeing 96 transactions on average daily that are up almost double. Well, yeah, almost double from back in March, was obviously when we were pre-COVID. So this is a big factor that I think a lot of operators aren't necessarily putting a lot of thought into in terms of how this is going to affect you long term. And that's the thing that you kind of have to, so you have to really think about in terms of being able to put your 2-year, 3 and 5-year plan together as an operator. So the first thing you're gonna do if you're building ghost kitchens is you're gonna need a bunch of equipment. So let's kind of break into some of the products you're gonna need. So maybe you are a non-hot product, say you're a salad concept or maybe even a sandwich concept, a cold sandwich concept that has been in that business for a long time and you want to go ahead and offer a product. This is a company, Vollrath, who is a leader in commercial cookware. And they're kind of your one-stop shop for kind of all ghost kitchen needs with a wide array of commercial cooking equipment, kitchen smallwares. You're gonna need prepping stuff, cooking and serving, and of course, delivery products. They're kind of a one-stop shop for you guys to bring all of this order together. Another thing that you're gonna need is efficiency and functionality in your ghost kitchen operation. And there's a lot of variables that can kind of come into that to kind of create that. But as an operator, you should be looking to solutions that help you with maximizing your output. So mainly what I mean by that is simplifying your back of house process. So maybe you're using some cross-utilization of products you already have, and that's gonna build up. Obviously, Vollrath does something with their convection ovens, the Cayenne Convection oven that you see right behind me. This is a perfect component for your ghost kitchen model, and there's several reasons for this. Whether you're going into baked goods, and this could be doughs, breads, things like that, even pre-made, such as frozen items or something that you're getting that is coming in from your supplier. This is the kind of oven that can really provide a lot of output for you with a lot or a minimal fuss. So it's very easy to use. It has a great consistent cooking array. And the best of all, this is the thing that I think a lot of people don't realize when they start looking at ghost kitchens and you start thinking, hey, I'm gonna put this ghost kitchen in, and all of a sudden you realize you need a hood. That's not the case with the Vollrath Cayenne system. It's hoodless. The design is really cool. I mean, we use it right here in our studios. So I'm gonna break down some of the key features of this when you are trying to buy equipment for your ghost kitchen. You wanna think of traditional commercial kitchen ovens. So you kind of visualize your whole hooded system, as I said, large footprint, those kind of things. Not the case, but yet you still need high output, but yet you need compact because you're basically running a restaurant within a restaurant. So that's where this really kind of comes into play. The other thing that's really great about this is it's ventless. So you don't have these massive fans. This thing you can run and it does a great job throughout the day. It's very easy to clean. And which is kind of a thing when you look at consumer confidence, really looking at cleanliness as being a big factor. It could be a thing for you in the future, and I think this is only going to help you kind of maintain that element. The other thing is this thing is cool to the touch, so it has, you know, basically if you've got a new ghost kitchen that you're running, you've got your current line prep going on, you guys are going right down line with your traditional menu, and now you're running a ghost kitchen off basically your back counter, so you've got 2 extra bodies behind you, and all of a sudden he's right here on top of your oven, and most likely in an oven that is a commercial oven, basically you've got the issue of someone getting burned, or they're going to hit it. They're going to cause the temperatures to change. There's so many things when you have a tight, confined space. So you got to be very careful. So what they've done is they've paid a lot of careful attention to the design and detail and the incorporation of the rounded interior. Very easy to clean. Listen, this thing is just perfect, I think, for what you need in a ghost kitchen. In addition, the oven has a built-in automated timer. Obviously, that's a pretty basic thing, but it is something that I think a lot of some of these kinds of ovens don't have to really kind of take you to the next level. And of course, it does include knob guards, as I mentioned, so you don't have any accidental adjustments and you end up, you know, losing product, which is a big deal in terms of shrinkage and errors. All right. So the other thing is the oven also has a custom baffle fan and diffuser plate, which is kind of a cool thing because it creates a very consistent profile for baking. So if you're doing pizza, maybe you're doing some kind of baked muffins, add-ons, even for something that maybe you're adding into your current menu, it's a big deal. Also, operators look for ways to kind of refine, I guess, menus, so you integrate versatility into your core offerings. So now you've got multi-use, which is a big factor. This thing is going to give you a lot and a ton of versatility. It's got a browning function, which I think is perfect. You don't find that in ovens that's this size and a wider range of temperatures, and especially in the range of 150 to 570. If you do need to almost go to the broil state, you've got that ability to do so. So it's a huge benefit for, and a lot of variety, I think, for food items as you're building out your ghost kitchen. All right, so I promised you, when you look at trends, whether or not you should be starting a ghost kitchen, how should I start it, all the equipment that I'm gonna need to get it going, what kind of products should I be looking at? Some of the trends that we're gonna be talking about is gonna help you understand where the next, phase of ghost kitchen and virtual brand development is gonna happen. So I wanna break to one of the slides right here. And this is, when you look at third-party versus native delivery, this is a buying habit. Now, this is something you have to keep a real tight, close watch on, and there's a reason for this. Third-party versus direct takeout. And let me explain this because the chart is a little alarming at first. If you're a ghost kitchen, most likely you are depending on third-party takeout because you may not necessarily have a dining room, or like if you are a current taco shop and you want to spin off some wings or a burger concept, okay, that's great. You can still potentially do takeout for people doing pickup, as I mentioned, like on a curbside variety. But when you look at these data points of takeout and third-party delivery, I want you to look at the demographics, because this is an 18 to 34, which is one of the highest demographics in terms of frequency, 3.6 times per month. On average, up to 4.9 when you look at March and June. And then in July and October, we saw a small fall off of third-party delivery takeout. Now, this is interesting because I would think that we'd continue to see that rise. But if you look at direct takeout, you go from 2.1 back in January and February on average to 2.9 and then 3.7. That's a big jump. So what these trends, and we'll continue to watch these, and we'll probably do another segment here to kind of follow along with data after October. But the point being is that direct to takeout is evolving very fast. So if you are a ghost kitchen or you're considering a ghost kitchen, you need to have a direct takeout model in place. So you're gonna need a few things. You're gonna need e-commerce, obviously, mobile app, contactless, all those kind of things. All right, so on this slide, this kind of just shows you the potential growth for virtual brands. When you look back at 2019, it was just, they were really non-existent, ghost kitchen and virtual brands. Grew a little bit in early 2020. We don't have the end year numbers for 2020, so I think that number will probably change dramatically. 2021, we expect about 162 brands, not kitchens, brands, to jump into this category. And you can kind of see this just on the headlines of brands that almost every week we're seeing a half a dozen brands that are jumping into that space. 2022, we'll see over 200, 275 by 23. And I think finally, the masses will come into the market by 2024. I know that's 3 years away, but it is something that I think we'll start to see. And by 2025, this will be a standard in almost every restaurant on the planet when you think about whether or not you have a ghost kitchen or not. The next slide really kind of breaks into some of these consumer acceptance aspects. And this is the thing I think before we get into, should I start one, you need to understand how consumers are going to interact. So 62% of consumers on marketplaces are willing to try unknown brands. And what I mean by that is, I'm on Uber and I found you for the first time, you don't have a brick and mortar, I'm willing to try. 62%, that's a high number. The other thing that you look at here on these numbers, 73.2% of customers will return. So that's another big win for a virtual or a ghost kitchen. And I do get the argument from some CEOs that brand value is important when it comes to building your restaurant concept. And I don't necessarily agree with that as much anymore. And I'm a big brand guy. I think brand is a very important aspect. A couple other points to this, because I mean, when you can hit 73.2%, they'll come back and you're not even a brick and mortar. That's a pretty powerful statement. Now, will that hold over time? That's the question. And the cool thing is, if you are building ghost kitchen, listen, you can change on a dime. So the opportunity for you to be a burger concept today and going to a falafel or a Greek Mediterranean concept tomorrow is pretty easy, depending on what your operation throughput can handle. The other aspect is 69.5% of customers went direct after only 2.3. That was part of that previous slide that I talked about, where people were going more to direct takeout. And then over 50% of customers now selected ghost brands over a known brand. This is the big number that you need to be thinking about, because ghost brands now are very powerful because of the third-party marketplace. So it is kind of a must-have for you to run your ghost kitchen, because essentially it is a marketing tool. We'll cover some of those topics, and if you have which reminds me, if you have a product that you'd like us to review, just shoot us an email to producer@foodibletv.com, because that's how we would bring it in and talk about it with this work. We'll get all the breakdowns, get some operator reviews of it, and then give you kind of an opinion on how and if you should be using that product for your restaurant. But back to the point being, on your ghost kitchen, make sure that you're ready for that direct to takeout, because what I feel is happening with third party is people are driving into third party. They're kind of building up their program with a restaurant. Maybe for the first time I start ordering with you, I go off Uber Eats or Postmates, but my second and third time, I start going direct. So I use Uber as a discovery mechanism, or these third-party marketplaces as discovery, and then once I find a place that I love, I start giving that operator some love, meaning I'm either calling him, I'm getting on his app, or I'm going to his website and I'm ordering direct for direct takeout. And that is why we're seeing those trends continue to rise. So make sure and stay tuned right here on Taste Kitchen. We're gonna do more of these kinds of breakdowns of products that you should be using in virtual and ghost kitchen brands, but also in just your general operations. We wanna thank, of course, our kitchen sponsors. We've got Beverage Air and Vitamix, of course, as you can see in our new Taste Kitchen format here, that are always friends of the show, and thanks to everything they're doing to help support Taste Kitchen. If you want information on how to get on Taste Kitchen, as I said, producer@foodibletv.com. We will catch you next time right here on Taste Kitchen.